In this video, you're going to learn about the nasty stomach bug that is norovirus, what it is, how to avoid getting it, and what to do if you get it. Hi, I'm Gary Membridge of Tips for Travelers, also the author of some cruise books like The Cruise Traveler's Handbook and Essential Cruise Tips. In this video, I'm going to be talking about that horrible thing that is norovirus, particularly in relation to cruising. I've been on about 50 cruises at the time of making this video. I've been on ships when it's had an outbreak of norovirus and I haven't caught it. So I'm going to share tips and advice on how you too can make sure that you avoid norovirus. The important thing to know about norovirus is it's not specifically related to cruising. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention in the United States estimates that probably less than 1% of all outbreaks of norovirus actually happen on a cruise ship. Up to 20 million people a year in the United States can suffer from norovirus, about 1 million in the UK. So it's a big problem. So first of all, what is norovirus? Norovirus is a gastrointestinal illness. It can cause vomiting and diarrhea. You can also have headaches, fever, and stomach cramps. As I've mentioned, it's not unique to ships. It breaks out a lot on land. But what's really important about norovirus, because it is so contagious, it tends to break out when there are concentrated groups of people. So things like hospitals, care homes, and of course cruise ships where you have a lot of people in a contained space. Norovirus is very contagious and basically it spreads through touch. So you can pick it up by doing things like shaking hands, touching doorknobs, basically touching anything that has the virus on it. So it's really, really contagious and it spreads very easily. So it requires a lot of discipline to make sure that you do not get it. So how can you avoid getting norovirus? Well, actually, it's surprisingly simple. The single most important way of stopping getting norovirus is by washing your hands with soap and water very frequently. If you keep doing that, this is going to really minimize your chance of getting norovirus. When you wash your hands with soap and water, you should wash them for at least 20 seconds very thoroughly. And one of the little tips that I was given by a captain on board a Cunard ship is sing quietly to yourself, happy birthday. That's going to be about as long as it takes to make sure that your hands are washed properly. Wash your hands very frequently and avoid touching surfaces that people touch a lot. So try and avoid things on a cruise ship like the handrails, pushing buttons on the elevator. If you use one of the public restrooms, when you leave, either you use a tissue or pull down your sleeve or something and open the door to leave the bathroom. Try and avoid physical contact with other people. So you'll find on a lot of cruise ships, the captains and the officers, when they have the captain's parties, will not shake your hand. They might either just nod or they'll bump elbows. Now, alcohol gel is obviously helpful and it's important on a cruise ship. You'll find that everywhere, but it's no substitute to washing your hands with soap and water. Another important tip, and this happens a lot, particularly when there's an outbreak of norovirus, is if you need to use the bathroom, try and go to your own cabin. So don't use the public restrooms around the ship, because that could be an area where people aren't being as diligent in terms of washing their hands and the virus could be spread. Two other very important things about norovirus is if you board the ship and you've either had diarrhea or you've had vomiting, when you fill out that questionnaire that everybody has to fill out before you board the ship, be honest, because one of the biggest problems with norovirus is people bring it onto the ship. So the ships spend a lot of time cleansing surfaces, trying to keep everything clean. But if someone boards a ship who's suffering from diarrhea or vomiting or has the virus, they can spread it very easily. And once it's on board the ship, it's quite hard to contain. So if you do have any of those symptoms, when you fill out the questionnaire, be honest about it. If everyone was honest about it, it would probably stop the spread on board cruise ships. The downside of filling it out is you're probably going to be quarantined in your cabin for at least 48 hours until they can make sure that it's clear. So you might find the first day or two of your cruise is you're not allowed to actually get out and about on the ship. However, if you are bringing the virus on board, that's the best way of stopping it, is being honest when you fill out the questionnaire. The other thing that I tend to do when I board a ship to avoid getting the norovirus is in the first couple of days, the first 48 hours, first 2 or 3 days, I don't use the buffet restaurant, because that's often where people are touching lots of the different implements, and it's basically a place where lots of people are going. So I tend to avoid the buffet restaurant for the first couple of days of a cruise until the cruise is underway and it's very clear that there's no cases of norovirus on the ship. So that's another good way of avoiding it. The thing with the norovirus is it can take up to 48 hours before before it actually manifests itself. And unfortunately, there's no cure for it. You basically have to ride it out. So the key thing is making yourself comfortable. The minute you start having symptoms, report it. What ships ask you to do is not go to the medical center, go straight to your cabin, pick up the phone and phone the medical center. Now, ships generally do not charge you if you report any sort of gastro problems. So if you have vomiting or diarrhea, you may also have headaches, stomach cramps, or fevers. Report it to the medical center. They're unlikely to charge you for any services that they may provide. What will likely happen is a nurse or doctor will come and see you, they'll document your various symptoms, and they will probably give you some antidiarrheal products. So for example, some of the brands or products you might have heard of are things like Imodium or Diarrhelise. And also what you'll be encouraged to do is to make sure that you stay rehydrated. So you'll be asked to drink lots of liquid, or you'll be given some other kind of product which helps reabsorb lots of vitamins and minerals. Any products they give you and any consultations you're unlikely to be charged for, because norovirus is such a big issue and ships do not want to discourage people from reporting it. The other way that it's treated is because the symptoms can again also last for up to 48 hours. You will be quarantined in your cabin and you will be asked not to leave your cabin. They will also come and probably wash your bedding quite frequently. They'll make sure that you brought meals to your rooms, particularly targeting to make sure that you are rehydrating and getting minerals and things back. So you will be asked to stay in your cabin, and very important if you do have the symptoms to stay in your cabin. I know you're going to lose some days on your vacation, but it's better than it spreading right throughout the ship. So there's no specific treatment to it. It's really just letting it work through your system and using products to make your life a little bit more comfortable. Don't let the fear of norovirus put you off going on a cruise. Although norovirus breakouts on a ship get a lot of publicity, bear in mind that norovirus is very prevalent all over the place. They do tend to happen where people congregate, so things like hospitals, care homes, and of course on a ship. So final thought about the norovirus, it's really about taking care, washing your hands incredibly frequently, avoiding touching surfaces, avoiding contact with people, shaking hands, etc. If you do have any symptoms, it's really important, go to your cabin, let the medical center know, and unfortunately, if you do get norovirus, you just have to ride it out and take those various products that are going to make your life more comfortable. Hope you found that helpful. If you have any other thoughts or tips on your experiences of norovirus, please leave them in the comments. It would also be great if you gave a like to the video and subscribe to the Tips for Travelers channel here on YouTube and get more travel inspiration, advice, and tips.